Obsidian is an incredible writing app. I use it all of the time. The backlinks, the writing features, the tabs, the slides, the windows, everything like that. But it can also be a really good task app. There are lots of community plugins in Obsidian where the community have developed a plugin that you can put into Obsidian to help you manage or do different features. In this video, I want to go over the Tasks plugin, which I think is the most popular and widely used plugin inside of Obsidian for tasks specifically. But do bear in mind, this video is obviously static, so in the future there may have been updates and things may have changed or evolved, so I would highly recommend having a look at the help guide or the help documentation. So going into Obsidian, I've got a brand new vault. If I go down to the settings, I'm personally just going to change my appearance very quickly. I'm going to go to the appearance tab, adapt to system, I'm going to make it dark mode, and then I'm just going to change this to an orange just so I feel more comfortable. But then I'm also going to go community plugins, browse, type in tasks at the top, and now there it is, the tasks plugin. There's over 1 million downloads, so I'm going to push the install button, enable button, and you can see there's the user guide, contributing guide, roadmap, and obviously the Obsidian link. And this is what's called a README. You can go through and have a look of the README, but I'm going to go through most of these features through this video and have a look at the chapters down the bottom if you want to skip to a certain section. So let's go to the options. You can see right at the top in red writing, changing any setting requires a restart of Obsidian, so I'm going to try and avoid that as much as possible in this video, but bear that in mind. If you do change a setting, make sure you restart so that the setting can have time to change whatever it is that you changed. But this setting at the top, task format, I would keep it to task emoji format unless you are a heavy user of data view. I've done a video on data view in the past. I'll leave a link to that in the top right, but even though I use data view, I still stick with the task emoji format because it's my personal preference. Now, before I continue, what is a task in Obsidian? What does it look like? Well, if I zoom in, Obsidian is a little bit different from typical word editors. It's a markdown word editor, which is md.md, which means if you push something like a hash symbol and space, that turns the words into a heading. You can see this is text, this is a heading. And inside Obsidian and most markdown tools, there is something called a task block. So if I push a dash and space, that's a bullet point. If I then use a square bracket and then put a space in between two square brackets, then space afterwards, I now have a task block. If I then write task, this is the Autosuggest that comes up with the task plugin, which I'll go through later. But if we then push either enter or push the button, it creates a new task in this list. Now, you don't have to remember to do all of that because in Obsidian, there are hotkeys. So if I go to the settings, go to the hotkeys, and if we go for checkbox, there are two settings. One of them is cycle the bullet / checkbox. So that's going from the bullet to the checkbox to the checked checkbox and then back to the bullet. Or there's the toggle checkbox status, which is Control L by default. I'm going to exit that, so I'm going to delete that hotkey and change this. I'm going to push the customize hotkey and then push Control Enter on my keyboard because that's the one I personally use. But you can see there's a conflict. I'm going to hover over. There's a conflict with open link under cursor. But what I'm actually going to do is remove the checkbox from the search. Then click on this keyboard icon, push Control Enter. Now it's searching for the hotkeys that have Control Enter. There's that conflict. I'm going to delete that one. So now we're all good to go. So when I'm in my Obsidian, I can push Control Enter and it creates a new task for me. New task, I push Enter, new task, push Enter, and I can keep going and rattling off all those tasks. Heading back to the task settings, if we scroll down, you can see we've got a global filter setting. And as you can see, it suggests to leave this empty if you want all of the checkbox items to appear inside of what's called a query. So for a very simple query, I'm going to push the ticks to make a code block. Inside of my Obsidian, you can see we've got the 3 ticks at the top and then 3 ticks down the bottom. That was automatically added. Alternatively, you can push Control P to go to your command palette and then type in code, then insert code block, and it will do the same thing. And at the top, you want to type tasks. And what this is going to do is search for all of the tasks inside of the Obsidian Vault. So this vault has one file called welcome in it, and the vault folder is the task plugin vault folder. So all the tasks here should appear in this query. Let's have a look. There we go. We've got all 3 of those tasks. I'm going to delete all these words just to clear things up a little bit. And you can see now that I've deleted the words, this link has changed. I will get to the query in a minute. But if we come back to this global filter, we could add, you can see there's an example there, add hashtag task or the word to do. So if we put hashtag task in there and then put a hashtag task in one of those tasks, you can see now the query is only looking for the hashtag task tasks. If I remove that hashtag task, the query is going to say, nope, there's no task here. So let's add that in again to this one. There it is. We changed the words to new thing to do, and you can see there it is. So that is the task that is being shown because it's got the hashtag task. If we change the setting and put to do in there, now we can have a look. We can go back to the query, remove that, and you can see the task query is not showing anything. If I put to do inside of that task, it's now going to show inside of the query result. I personally like to show all of my tasks inside of the task query block and then filter using the query filters, but this is an option worth having a look at if you want to be specific about what tasks are filtered. And this setting down here allows you to remove the global filter from the description. So if we go back and put our to-do filter into the global task filters, you can see it's only showing the to-do. If I click on this icon, you can see it says edit task. This brings up the task editing modal. But new thing to do and to do look different because when I go into there, that description doesn't have the capital to do in it. So if I was to write to do inside of the description and then push apply, now we've got to do, new thing to do, and then the to do on the end. If I remove this to do on the end, you can see the query is still showing the task because it's found to do inside of the task. That is the filter. However, because the to do is now in the description of the task, if I push this setting, you can see it's no longer showing the to do bit inside of the query result. So if I turn this off, it shows to do. If I turn this on, it hides the to do, but I'm going to turn that off because I want to show everything, and I'm actually going to take that out of the filter as well, so it wouldn't make much of a difference, but I keep these as default. Then coming down, we've got the global query. So this is like a template or something that automatically goes in when you create a new task block. So as an example, if I say limit to 1, you can see the query is limited to 1, so it's saying 1 of 3. If I remove that line, now it's showing all 3 tasks. So this global query will apply to all of the queries inside of the vault. So if you want to have a filter for every single query, and there have been some examples in here, so limit to 300 or show urgency or path does not include the templates folder, for example, then you can do that from the settings. Now again, this is something I don't personally use. Next up, there is the task statuses, and there are core statuses and custom statuses. So if we have a look back at these tasks, we've got this task that isn't complete. So we've got a to-do task and a done task. This one is going to be ticked done. Leaving aside this for a second, if we go up to the 3 dots and we have a look at the source mode, this is what's going on. We've got an X inside of those brackets. So this is to do, this is done. I'm going to right click on the tab and split right. So we now have 2 different versions of the same file. 3 dots, source mode. So now in this view, in the right view, I have the page preview showing us the tasks. And in the left, we have the source mode showing us all of the markdown. So when I tick this to do, you can see the X has disappeared. When I tick this done, the X has reappeared. That is a status. You've got a to do and a done. That's the core status inside of Obsidian. And that is what's being shown here. You can see it goes from nothing, so to do, and then to done, and then it goes from done to do. So name is done, type done, name is to do, type to do. If we go and edit this, we can now change the status inside of Obsidian. So if we change this from to do, let's say action, and the next task status is actually a slash instead of an X, this task status type is still to do because I still want to do it. It's still the first task in the list. If I click this, you can see in progress, done, cancelled, or non-task. I want to keep it to do, so accept. And now the name has changed to action and the type is still to do, but the symbol is now going to this slash. But the slash isn't the X, the slash is down here. And this is a custom status. So if we go and have a look at what that is, the editing, we've got the slash as the task symbol, the task status name is in progress, and the next symbol is now the X. So if we have a look, the task status type to do, in progress, done, cancel, this is obviously in progress, for us at least in this use case. Save. Now when I go to this done task and I tick it, we've got it not complete. So this is the action status. We changed it from to do to action. Then we tick it. Now it's in progress. You can see that new symbol is there and the tick box, the completion is no longer there because it's not completed, it's in progress. Then when I tick it, it's now done. So if I click it through, we've got action, then in progress, then done. At the moment, there isn't any way to automatically go to a cancelled type of task. So what we could do is, instead of going from action, let's click into this edit and change this back to to-do. And change this symbol from the slash to the dash, then save. Now it's going to this dash symbol. So now it's going to go from to-do to cancelled. And if we go to edit the cancelled, what happens after the cancelled? Nothing. So now if we have a look at done, if I tick the done, it's now been cancelled. So you can see there's an X, and that's different from the being done, and there's the symbol, it's been cancelled. If I click on that one, it's now to do, then X, it's been cancelled. Having a look at these core statuses, if I click on the review and check your status, what it'll do, as you can see as I hover over, it creates a new file in the root of the vault, so that's the main vault folder, containing a mermaid diagram. Just an image of the current status settings. So when we click this, you can see here is the new note. It's there, task plugin review and check your status. And when we scroll down, you can see here is the mermaid graph. So it goes from in progress to done, and then to do and cancelled are linked. So to do, this is a to do. If I click it, it goes to cancelled. That's going to cancelled. If I click the cancelled, it goes back to done. If I come in here and manually add that slash, you can see now it's still in progress. There's no visual change, but now it's in progress. Now when I click from in progress, it goes to done. That's the in progress to done. But there's no easy way to get to in progress, which is a little bit inconvenient. And that is where you could go to the task modal. So Control P, task, you can see create or edit task. If I click in there, I'm already on the done task because that's where my cursor was. My cursor was on the done task. If I go to do, command palette with Control P, type task, create or edit task, I'm now on the to do. In here, we've got the status, to do, or I could say in progress. Now apply. Now it's in progress. When I click it, it goes to done. Then if I click it, it's now back to do. And this, because of our little cycle down there, will go to cancelled and then uncancelled. And this is something you can play around with to work out which sort of flow you want to go in with the statuses. And what I personally do to speed this up, if I go to the settings, go to hotkeys, type in task, you can see task, create or edit task. What I do is I have a hotkey, Control-Alt-N. So now when I'm on a task and I want to edit it, Control-Alt-N, and then I can just edit the task and whatever information I want. When it comes to adding new statuses, you can see we've got the add new task status, and what this will do is add a new option into the task status. Now when you go into the edit, you can then add a symbol. So let's say a question mark, task name, question, and then task next symbol, X. So it's going to go from a question to done. And what task status is this? Well, this is going to be an in progress status because it's in progress, but it's a question that's in progress. So we push save, and now we're actually going to have to reload this. So I'm going to close that down. That was a middle mouse click using the wheel, right click and delete the file. Settings, review, check your statuses, scroll down, and there we go. We've got the in progress and the question, which both go to done, goes to do, which cycles with cancel. So now if I come into the done and make that a question, it says it's in progress. And I know it's in progress because it hasn't been striked through. Is that a word? Striked through? I don't know. I'm going to go with it. And then tick it, and then it's done. And now it's got the strike through and then the date and the emoji. But if you are going to add all of these statuses, you probably want to see a visual difference rather than it just being the same like this. It's just a tick box without the strike through. You can add what's called CSS. It's a file that goes on your computer. It's completely safe and it changes the way that your Obsidian looks. I'm going to use the minimal theme one here because I think that's one of the more popular themes. And you see what it's done is added loads of other different types of tasks. So we've got in progress, cancelled, question, to do, incomplete, done, a different cancelled, forwarded, schedule, question, important, star, quote, location, bookmark. You can see there's loads of these. And now when we take a look, we've got in progress, question, then we've got all of these other options that go to the done button, and then we've got to do, and then to do and cancelled cycles through. I'm going to go up to the core statuses, change that so that it goes from to do to done. And now inside of the settings, I want to go to the appearance tab, themes, manage, and you can see minimal is right at the top because it's the most popular theme. That's why I picked it. So install and use. and you may have noticed a small change. So if I go to default, have a look at everything, you can see it has one look. Then if we go to the minimal, it now has a different look. And so now when we have a look at those tasks, you can see, well, this task has got a question mark on it because there is a question in there. If we have a look at one of these other options, say exclamation mark, we have an exclamation mark, we have a question mark. When I tick it, it goes to done. When I tick it, it goes to done. I tick them again, they go to do. So let's create a new task, enter on the end of that line, and then Control-Alt-N, go to status, let's star this, apply, and now we've got a star for the question. Actually, no, we don't want that to be a star. We want this to be a question. So we put question, apply, and now it's a question. I'm now going to go back to the default theme, which, as you can see, is going to get rid of the look. It's going to change it back to the default look. And if we go to the tasks, I don't use any of these, but if they're there, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to go between to do and done. But if you do want to delete them, there is a nice button down here that says reset custom status types to default, which brings us back here. So scrolling down, we now have all of the date settings that we've sort of seen. This toggle, as you all have noticed, adds a tick and the completed date at the end of a toggle when it's done. So when we tick something, that is the emoji and that is the date. That's the date today anyway. So it will happen every time you complete a task. The set cancelled is exactly the same, but it puts an X instead of a tick emoji. The set created date is off by default. I personally turn this one on, and what this does is it adds a timestamp as to when you created it. Now if I enter and then add new task and then enter, this isn't being created through the task plugin, so it doesn't add that created bit. So if I go Control-Alt-N to create a new task, say new task, now apply, you can see the created date is already in there. It's in this task modal, so I apply, now it's been added. So again, Control-Alt-N to create the new task added, then enter, now it's created the new task with the created date on it, which if you then say is done, we now get the done date on the end. And that covers the 3 different date options down the bottom of this task modal. So we've got the created, which I've covered. We've got the done, which I've covered. That's the done whenever it is, and the cancelled. But that's automatic addition. You can come into here and then change the date. You can see try Monday, tomorrow. So we can write out dates. So I created this yesterday. So I typed yesterday. It's suggesting a date, 27th. Which is true because it's the 28th today. I push apply and now it's going to create a task with yesterday's date. So even though I typed yesterday, it actually has added the date. So let's create a new task again, type in task so there's actually something to add. There's today's date, and you can see I can do the same thing with the done, but let's say cancelled. Let's just put in Monday, so that's going to go to next Monday. If I show my calendar quickly, you can see it's the 28th. If I move forwards to the next week, there's the 1st, so that's the first Monday that it's picked up, so it's picked up the Monday coming. And if we apply, now task is added, it was added then, but I cancelled it on Monday for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe it's something in the future that I know I'm going to cancel. But that's the 3 dates down here. There are 3 other dates in the middle, and these are the ones that keep popping up in the auto-suggest. So when you're on a task and you push space, there's an auto-suggest that pops up. At the moment, it's giving me 5 options. We have due date, start date, schedule date. If I click on due date, it adds an emoji and then suggests, hey, what date? And this is the exact same thing as what we've just gone through. Today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. If we type in a date, so 7th of April, you can see there's the 7th of April. I push enter, it adds it, and now I have a due date for the 7th of April. If I go Control-Alt-N to edit, there's the due date. If I add in a schedule date, so say it's going to be scheduled tomorrow, I'm going to start it today, so it's due on the 7th of April, I'm scheduling it, so I'm going to do it tomorrow, but I've started it today. Now I've got 3 different dates, I apply, and all of those dates have been added to the task. Now I can also add created, so I created it today, apply, now I've got created, start, scheduled, and due dates, all on this task that says question. Let's make this a little bit more applicable. Task plugin video, the video that I'm doing right now. I created the task today, I've started the task today, I have scheduled work for it tomorrow, and it's due on Friday, so if I push Friday and then enter, now it's changed that due date to Friday, which is tomorrow, and there's the task plugin. Then if we take a look at the top, we've got priority. We have lowest, low, normal, which is what it's at the moment because there is nothing on the task. There is no priority on the task, so it's a normal priority. Medium, high, and highest. So just going to go through all of those icons. You can see there's the lowest icon, and because all of this is in the auto suggest, I can backspace and then say low. So now it's low priority, or medium priority, or high priority, or highest priority. And in this case, I actually want it to be the highest priority, so I want it to be right at the top of my list. And for this to-do task, let's say start today. It's due on next Friday, and I want to schedule on Sunday, and it's of high priority. That looks like a lot of information, and I'll go through the queries later on, which you can actually hide some of this information. But before we get there, I want to cover this setting, the use file name as scheduled date for undated tasks. And for this, what I'm going to do, if I go to the left, you see open today's daily note. So if I click on that, it's now opened a note, and it's a daily note. So I can drag this over to the right, right click, split right. So we've still got the tasks showing both in the source mode and in the live preview, but we have a daily note. And this is a core plugin in Obsidian called the Daily Notes Core plugin. It's like a journal. So if I want to add a task, remember Control-Alt-N is my hotkey. So let's say I want to edit the video and it's pretty high importance. It's due today, and then I apply. You can see it's automatically added that created, and it's added in the due date. And when I go to the settings, I can turn this on. And this task has a due date, so I know when it's going to be due. It's been dated. If I then create a new task, let's say take out the rubbish and just enter, that's something I want to do. What it's actually done, because of the date in the file name title, is it's attaching a scheduled date of today for this task. I'm going to expand on these queries in a minute, but if I type in scheduled today, you can see take out the rubbish is scheduled for today, but there's no scheduled date on it. If we go Control-Alt-N, you can see the scheduled date is showing in the modal for today, but it's not actually on the task. This is the created date. And what it's doing is it's automatically taking the date from the file and saying, hey, you got to do this today. If we come into the settings and turn this off, you can see now it's not going to show the task because it's not being attached. The schedule date is not being attached to this task via the file name because the setting's been turned off. So if you do use the daily notes, this is a way of making sure all of the tasks have been scheduled for the date, because you can just turn it on and see it in the query. Now, some people have their daily journal in one folder, but then have other dated files elsewhere. So instead of having all of the files with a date in, you can specify a folder. So I'm going to type in journal there. And now, because this file isn't in the journal folder, it's not showing in the query. You can see the query is still the same, but it's not showing because of our setting. It's looking for files in the journal folder with a date. So if I drag this file into the journal folder, now it's going to show the task. If I drag it out of the journal folder back into the main Vault folder, you can see it's not in there anymore. It's going to disappear. So this is how you could specify only the journal, or the whatever you want to call it, files get the scheduled date. Looking down at the auto suggest settings, you can see you can turn it off if you want. That is when you come into a task and you push enter, it gives you this drop down. You can turn this off. So when you come into edit a task, if you push enter or backspace or try and do something with the task, the auto suggest isn't going to appear. You can also add a minimum match length. So if I move this up to a 1, now when I come into a task and push enter, it's not going to do anything. So if I say D, now it's going to bring it up because I've put one character in. So if I do push enter, so I'm creating a task without the task modal. So this isn't going to appear, remember. So I'm creating a task and I push space, nothing's happening. If I push a word or a letter, so let's say W, now it's going to search for something. So D-U, due, and this can help you type out a task without seeing the auto suggest straight away. So maybe you want that a little bit bigger, so maybe 3 letters. So I can then type something, new thing, and then I can type D, U, and then you need a 3rd letter of something the task plugin recognizes. So E, now we've got due date, or we've got recurring, or start. I personally have this set to 2, and then there could also be a maximum number of auto suggestions to show. So at the moment you can see there's 6, so if you drag this down to 0, you can see we've got the enter, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. If I move it all the way up to 12, now you can see we have a bigger drop down of all of the different things that we can add, and as we type things out, so DUE, it does narrow in on what you could use. So if I do type date, we've got due date, start date and scheduled date. I keep this at 6, so I have this at 1 and then 6. And down the bottom here you can see there is a dialog box setting, so if some of the keyboard shortcuts do clash with the system, then you can go through the settings. You can see there's the documentation if that is an issue. I have never found that to be an issue, and I don't see many people that do, but if you do find it as an issue, there's documentation there. But now let's tackle this recurring setting. So next recurrence appears on the line below. If we go into this task and we type recur, you can see it's going to repeat, and I'm going to say every day because I have lunch every day. And let's say today I've done my lunch, I tick it, you can see it's now been completed, and because it was automatically created by the task plugin, it's given me a created date, and I can do this as many times as I want because it's a repeated task. It's going to recur. But you can see here it's just saying every day it's been created and it's done. This isn't that useful because it just looks like the same thing over and over. So if we go lunch and then say it's due today, so at the moment it's due on the 28th. Now when I tick it done, you can see the new one that's created has added a date. So it's now due tomorrow. Then if we tick that one done, it's now due on the 30th, which is the day after, 31, and then the 1st. So this allows you to have a due date for the task every day because it's using the everyday recurrence. Instead of having the due date, let's say it was scheduled today, and now when it's done the same thing. It's added a day, it's added a day, added a day. But if we say it's due tomorrow, so it's scheduled in for the 31st, but it was due tomorrow. I know that doesn't really make sense, but when we tick it, it's going to add one day to both of those dates. What other recurrence do we have? So we've got the lunch, we've got the recurring symbol, and it's been created. So let's go Control-Alt-N and have a look at the recurring. Try every 2 weeks on Thursday. So we've now got every 2 weeks on Thursday. Apply. I want to add a due date for obviously Thursday, so it's due on the 28th, which is today. So now when I tick it done, you can see now it's due on the 11th. And when I jump over to my calendar quickly, we got the 28th. If we go next Thursday is the 4th, and the Thursday after is the 11th, because it's every 2 weeks on Thursday. So let's tick that again. Now it's saying the 25th. Which when we have a look at the calendar, we've got the 11th, we go to the next week, 18th, next week, we've got the 25th. And if we take a quick look, you can see these are the examples that are shown inside of the help documentation, every 3 days, 10 days, when done, etc, etc. There are lots of different recurring examples here, but there are some limitations to be aware of. Recurring tasks must have at least one date, so that's why I was adding the due date or the schedule date or the start date to the task. Otherwise it just looks like the same thing, and that is what it's mentioning here. And there are some edge cases and other things to be aware of, but unless you're going to go really deep into recurring tasks, I don't want to cover all of the different edge cases. The help documentation does a great job at covering them all. And if we come back to that setting that we're actually having a look at, you can see next occurrence appears on the line below. If I tick this, now when I tick this task done, you can see the completed tasks are above, so it's pushing the one that you want to do down a list. If I turn this setting off and now tick it, you can see now the tasks that are being done are below. So this is the one that I would personally use if I use recurring tasks in Obsidian, which I don't at the moment, but that's a setting worth noting. I mentioned tags earlier in the video because we pushed the hashtag and then task, and you can see the tag still works inside of Obsidian tasks. So when I go to edit, there is the tag inside of the description. The biggest limitation in this view is when you have a tag, so let's call it a tag and then apply, it's not going to give you an auto suggest inside of the edit menu. So if I'm adding a task and then go hashtag, you can see there it's giving me an auto suggest for the tag, so I can click it. But if I use the task modal and then go #t, it's not going to give me an auto suggest. But if you know the tag, you just type tag and then thing to do, apply, and then the tag's there. If you're not familiar with Obsidian, a tag is a way to search things. So if you click it, it goes to the search and then it shows you all of those things that are tagged. And that could be a block like this. This is a task block in Obsidian, or it could be an entire file. So you could tag a file, but I'm not going to go into that now. I'm going to put a project tag on this edit video. I personally don't use tags in my Vault, but we'll use this for the queries I'll do in a minute. But if we do have a task like this that's a project, maybe you've got subtasks. So if we push enter, we've now got a task. If I tab that task across, you can see we've got the option to fold it shut, fold it open, but I can say a role due today, publish due tomorrow, and now we have subtasks inside of our main task with due dates on. And then if we go to the Control-Alt-N hotkey, we then get the task modal of all the stuff that we've already covered. In addition to all of that, you can see we've got task dependencies, and they were recently added. You can see they were introduced in task 6.1.0. And on this help page, you can see there's loads of different pieces of information about task dependencies, and this will be developed more, so I would highly recommend you have a look at this help doc. But this is the general gist. You can see there's the task emoji format or the data view format. I use the task emoji format, so that's what we're going to go with. And using our daily note here, let's say I want to do a project. So I want to write an essay and it's due next week. But I want to draft the essay tomorrow. Now I need to draft the essay before I write the essay. So when I come into draft essay, I can go to the edit task, and here we can see before this and after this. So when I click in here, it gives me a search of all of the tasks. So when I type write essay and click in there, it's now saying before I draft, I want to write. Obviously, that's the wrong way round. So exit. After this, write essay. Now I apply, and you can see it's also added this to the write essay. All of these letters and numbers are the ID, and these IDs are automatically created, but it means that when we're in the task queries, we can search for is blocking. So is there a task that is blocking another task? This draft essay is blocking write essay. So you need to do the drafting before the writing. Or you can look for is blocked. So this write essay task is blocked by the draft essay. So with it being blocked, when I tick the draft essay complete, you can see it's going to disappear because now it's not blocked by the draft essay because it's been completed. But if I uncomplete this again, now it's going to appear blocked because I still need to draft the essay. If I add another task, let's say research essay, I can come in and say, okay, what is before this? Well, there's nothing before it, but after it, I want to draft the essay. So I'm going to draft the essay after I've researched, so apply. You can see now it's added to the draft essay a block. So we've got an ID for this, and we've got an ID for this. And let's say we want to do some background research as well. So Control-Alt-N, and after this, we want to do draft essay, so apply. Now I have the research and the background research. Both of them need to be complete for the draft essay to be unblocked. So at the moment is blocked. Draft essay is blocked by 2 different IDs. If I click background research, the draft essay won't disappear because it still needs the research essay to be completed. Now the draft essay is going to go because it's no longer blocked. So you have multiple dependencies on the side of a task, and they can be chained together with a final task, say write essay. And I'm actually going to look for is not blocked. So all the tasks that are not blocked. And what you'll notice if I drag this over to the left, you can see inside of here we've got these arrows to the right of some of these tasks. Actually, most of these tasks except from the one down the bottom. And if you hover over, you can see scheduled tomorrow on Friday the 29th. Right click for more options. So at the moment you can see the date is the 28th. So if we click on the edit, it's scheduled for the 28th. But maybe you don't actually want to do it on the 28th, and what this button lets you do is reschedule it, so you can postpone a task. So I'm going to left click, and now it's changed the schedule to the 29th because it's moved it a day forwards. And you can see over here in the background research, it's actually moved that number to the 29th. So if we do this again, we click postpone, you can see now it's changed it to 30. But as we've moved this background research, maybe we want to move the research essay as well. So I'm going to right click on this schedule button, and now I can schedule it for today, tomorrow, in however many days, or in however many weeks. So let's say in 5 days. So at the moment, it's scheduled for the 28th. There's no date on it because remember we have the setting, it's in a daily note that's automatically added for the 28th. So let's say schedule in 5 days. Now it's added a schedule, the 2nd of April, to this task. So the inherited date from the 28th is no longer there because we've added a scheduled date to the task via postponing it in a task query block. Now, when it comes to the task queries, you can see this is a quick reference guide in the help documentation. It's very easily accessible in the side menu. It's down here. And this gives you all of the options. And this is what I personally refer to when I'm trying to find something, because it gives you all the options you can filter, sort, group by. As you can see, we've got the filters, you've got the sorts, you've got the group, display, scripting. So if you do click on display, it takes you to those settings. There's the layout. But what I personally do when I'm trying to find something is Control F. And let's say I'm looking for a due date. I'll type in DUE and it will take me down to the due date section, due, on, before, after, or sort by, group by, hide, etc. I'm not going to go through all the options because there are far too many to go through, but I'm going to go through the main things that I think most people will use. So first of all, you can see we've got our done task there. It's been completed and it's still showing in our query result, which we don't want to see. Filter for not done, and you can see now we've only got the 9 tasks that need to be completed. Or we can do it the other way and say done and only show the done tasks. And if you use any custom status, so you can see we've now got that in status symbol inside of the done task, you can say status.name includes and then write in what that custom status includes. So here we've got in progress. If I go to the settings, you can see the name is in progress, so it's looking for anything like that. So if I actually get rid of the progress bit, it's still going to show the done task because this has in progress in the name, so the status name. But they are the filters. If you want to sort, you need to write sort, but you can't sort by not done. You would want to sort by status because you want to show them all. So we've got all 10 tasks and we're sorting by done or not done. For the task dependencies, as I mentioned earlier, you can use blocked. So is blocked, is not blocked. You could then sort by ID. So if we scroll down, you can see they're sorting by the ID of the blocking. But I personally don't actually want to see any of the IDs. So what I do is I hide it. So now I'm hiding the ID. You can see there's the ID and it's not showing on any of these tasks. It's showing that it's blocked, but not the ID. If you want to hide the blocking bit, that's called depends on. So you can hide depends on, and now you don't know what things are dependent on something or the ID of anything, but you can still search for them. So if I put is blocked, I know the draft essay and the write essay are both blocked, but I don't know what it depends on or the ID, or at least by looking at the query. I could go into edit and then say, oh look, it depends on the draft essay. But this is where you can combine a filter with different elements of hiding stuff in the task query to show exactly what you want to see. And when it comes to the dates, it's the same thing. So if I say hide due date, you can see there's no due dates being shown. I say hide schedule date, and again, all the scheduled dates are gone. Now what I personally do is hide the created date because I don't need to know when I created the task most of the time, but I do want to see when it's scheduled for, and I actually hide the due date because the due date is like a deadline and I have that shown in a different query. So something like this where I've got a second query block. So we've got the first one here and the second one has due this week. So it's looking at all the dates in this week, looking for the due dates of tasks and seeing what is this week. I'm then going to hide the schedule date, hide the ID, hide the depends on, hide created date, hide start date, or I could just sort by priority. And now I have the highest priority task at the top. And then, as you can see, it will go down afterwards. Another way of looking at this is by grouping by the due date. So now you can see Thursday, Friday, I have these tasks due on Thursday, these tasks due on Friday. If I quickly come in and make a recurring task, so recur every day, and say it's due today, you can see the task is still showing inside of this query. But maybe you don't want to show all of your recurring tasks because maybe they're habits. You can then filter them out. Is not recurring. Now, this task is still due today, but it's not showing in this query result because you maybe don't want to show all of your habits inside of your to-do list. Alternatively, maybe you want to have a look at all of your recurring tasks because that's your habit list. So, is recurring. Coming back to the blank query, you can see we've got these orange links. And if you left click on the link, it will take you to the task. So if I come down here, we can see we've got 240328. If I click on that, it will take me to that task in that file. So when I go back, there's the welcome query. If I go forwards, it goes back to that file. But when I come into here, I can then click on there and it will take me there. So it doesn't matter where the task is in the vault. If it's in your query, you can jump there through this backlink. Or if you don't want to jump through the backlink, you can hide the backlinks in the task, which may look cleaner. Alternatively, you can actually change the CSS or the way the backlinks look. You can see This is the normal backlinks. That's the file, and maybe it's under a heading, and it'll show you the heading. And the built-in option, there is the hide backlink. The short mode is another option. So when you type in short mode, you can see it's only showing the icons. There's the welcome task, and then you've got none of the main information, but you've got this has got the priority, it's got a created, start, scheduled, due, and there's the backlink, which you can still click on to go to the task. But there are also some options to add what's called a CSS snippet. This is one snippet, and this is another snippet, and this is the one that I actually personally use. So if you come down to the settings, go to the appearance tab, scroll down, you've got CSS snippets. Now at the moment, there isn't a folder. So if I click open folder, now on my computer, I'm in this PC, I'm in my external hard drive, the task plugin Vault folder. You can see there's the task plugin Vault folder. I'm in the .obsidian folder, then the snippets folder that's just been created. And what I can do from here is right click, go to new, and then go down to text document. But before I name the text document, I go to txt, delete those three, and put CSS. Now I've got new text document.css. I'm actually going to change the name to additions, and then I'm going to enter. So additions.css, enter, and it's going to say, if you change your file name extension, the file might become unusable. Are you sure you want to change it? Yes, we do. And now you can see the type of file is a CSS, a cascading style sheet document, which is what we want. So double click, and it's going to open up in Notepad. If you want to use a code editor, use a code editor. But now you can come in here and you can highlight all of these words to copy. That was Control C on my keyboard, and then Control V to paste. Now I've got all of this information in here. I Control S to save, or you can go to File and then save. So there's the hotkey. Now when I come back to Obsidian, I can refresh, and it's found the additions file. You can see apply CSS snippet. There is the path location. I turn that on. Now when I come back to my Obsidian, you can see the link has turned into a backlink. And when I click it, it still takes me to the task. But when I turn the additions off, the CSS off, it shows the welcome, the different backlink file names. So if we were to have a section in here, let's add a heading called Essay Project. Now we've got all the tasks under the heading Essay Project. It's going to show 2024-0328, and then the greater than Essay Project, because it's under the Essay Project heading. So it's going to take you to that task. But as you can imagine, if you've got lots of headings, so you've got a second section, that's a heading 2. Now when you have a look, you've got the heading section. So if you've got a long heading, it can fill out, and this task plugin query for me can look quite busy, which is why I use the additions CSS, because all of that is condensed into just this backlink icon. Again, another quick nudge, I would highly suggest you having a look through this quick reference guide, because it shows you all the different filter sorts, groups, options you have. Something I will go over is file properties. So inside of Obsidian, a file can have properties. As I mentioned earlier, you see we've got a property called property, and there's something in it. This is what it looks like in Markdown. In the live preview, it shows like this. So if we add another property, let's say an alias, and let's just give hello as another alias for the welcome page. But the task plugin, at the time of making this video at least, I don't believe you can query any of these properties, any of these file properties. But you can query the file path. So path includes well, so WEL, and it's now showing the 3 tasks from this file, 1, 2, 3. And if you don't want to include, so does not include, and then welcome, and now it's going to show the other 8 tasks. So we have 11 in total. There's the 3 that it's not showing because we don't want them to include anything from the path welcome. If we say path does not include J, because J is in the journal, anything inside of that journal folder, which is the daily note, isn't going to show, which is why it's only showing these 3 tasks. But instead of the file path, you could also look for the file name. So maybe you don't want to look for notes from 2024. So file does not include 2024. Or maybe you don't want to include things from 2023, so it now shows everything from 2024, which is obviously all of these. And the other way to do that would be file name includes 2024. But of course the welcome page doesn't have 2024 in the file name, so it's only showing the 8 from the journal file here. And then if you want to be even more granular, you can search through the description. So let's say description includes video. Now it's finding the task plugin video and edit video, because they are in the description of tasks. If we go to the edit menu, you can see video is in the description section, which you can do the same with the tags. So let's say tags include P. So is it a project? This one is a project. Or you could just look for tasks that have tags or doesn't have tags. And you can go as granular as you want by combining filters, using ands, ors, and nots, etc, etc. Feel free to go as detailed as you want. And then just as another little thing, if you're in the task query and you want to go from to do, so this is to do, and you want to go to something else, you can right click on the task, moment we're to do, and then go to in progress from the task plugin. Rather than clicking it, so left clicking it to make it done, you right click and then go to in progress or cancelled. So if you do decide, you know what, I'm not going to publish this video anymore, I'm going to cancel it, you can now cancel that task, which you can see has been done there from this task query window. But I think that covers the task plugin pretty well. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, or go to the Discord, and there is a task management channel inside of the Obsidian Discord where Claire and some of the other developers that maintain this plugin actually answer quite a lot of questions. There'll be other people as well to help you out. So thanks for watching.